I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. Before we get into the show today, we have to address the major national story happening right now, Hurricane Ian. I was just looking at the storm track. It's ugly still. The storm roared ashore this morning in southwest Florida as a Category 4 hurricane, one of the most powerful ever recorded in the U.S. Sustained winds of 150 miles an hour, gusting near 200 miles an hour. Images and video of the storm surge so far are devastating. This weather disaster is far from over, and communities will need a lot of help to get back on their feet. The Red Cross is already on the ground there. If you'd like to donate to help their efforts, open the camera on your smartphone right now and hover it over the QR code there on your screen. You'll be taken directly to their donation site. From bringing food to shelters where people are hunkered down to helping with cleanup efforts once the water recedes, this will be a weeks-long or months-long effort, and we hope you'll help out however you can. Now, let's get back to the focus of our show, issues right here at home. In just 2 weeks, the Oregon State Hospital, which cares for the mentally ill, will begin the first of its monthly early releases of patients. The first group includes 23 people. It has a lot of people concerned. And the county commissioners where the hospital is located in Salem, well, they're more than concerned, they're furious. And that makes this our big story. The folks set to be released were sent to the state hospital so they could be given medication and nutritious food and counseling, all in the hope that they would become capable of aiding and assisting in their own criminal defense. Yes, they all face criminal charges. 17 people in that first group are facing misdemeanor charges, while 6 are charged with felonies. They're supposed to be released back to the counties where they came from to face the criminal charge, but some are questioning whether that will actually even happen. I recently talked with Danielle Bethel. She's the chair of the Marion County Commission. Here's what she's worried about.
That an individual who had committed crimes in Lane County was going to be released in Marion County, and he had refused all services from our health department and was going to walk out the front door and go to one of our most high capacity day use centers, not even a shelter. And he had refused all forms of medical treatment or mental health treatment. And my foundational concern around this is this individual has been in the state hospital for however long, even if it's weeks or months, they have been treated. They're likely on medication. And when they walk out the front door of the hospital, it is likely upon refusal of service, they will not be on medication any longer. And what risk does that pose to the community and also themselves?
The person she's talking about was not part of the early release group, but this is not a hypothetical. This really happened. He was someone at the state hospital on an aid and assist hold, and he is an example of what the leaders in Marion County fear. Here's some more background on this particular case. A judge in Lane County dismissed the criminal case against the man. Because the case was dismissed, the state hospital had no legal authority to hold him. According to the email chain that Commissioner Bethel sent around, the Lane County Sheriff's Office would not send anyone over to pick him up from the state hospital, and his mother, who was a possible ride, said she couldn't do it either. And the state hospital does not drive patients back to their home county, by the way. So, despite the obvious best efforts of the hospital staff, the man did indeed walk out and onto the streets of Salem. Now, imagine that happening statewide as these early releases unfold over the next year, because that's exactly what Marion County Commissioner Bethel worries about.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, so there's a home rule kind of rule within the Oregon Revised Statute for parole and probation, which governs anytime somebody is going to be released from the penitentiary, if they've served a sentence, they're released to their home community, their home county. That home rule does not exist for the Oregon State Hospital. So potentially what could happen is, as you suggested, individuals could from other counties that are being housed currently at the state hospital could just walk out onto the streets of Salem and become a burden of Marion County's health system.
Well, that sort of thing is not supposed to happen, and the leader of the Oregon Health Authority, Patrick Allen, is probably throwing things at his screen right now if he's watching this. He insists that does not happen. But lawmakers from Salem grilled him about this very issue late last week, and in the end, Allen admitted the hospital can do very little to stop that very thing from taking place.
at the end of the day, if someone is no longer under our custody and control because of an aid and assist order, and they're no longer subject to a criminal charge, they have the ability to decide where they want to go, and it's difficult to work around that.
Allen went on to insist in that hearing that placement teams at the state hospital always have some sort of discharge plan for the patients as they're leaving. But State Rep Raquel Moore Green, a Republican in the Salem area, pressed him further, and it led to the sort of exchange we often do not see at the Oregon legislature.
And I'm reading, if a judge in other parts of the state dismisses a case before the defendant is transported back to their home county, as a result of the Mossman decision, they are released from OSH to the streets of Salem.
Oh, that's just not true. Chair knows, Representative Moore Green, we do discharge planning with all of our patients, regardless of the circumstances of our discharge. Nobody walks out the front door of the state hospital into the streets of Salem.
I don't know how to resolve that for you,
The case is dismissed. The case has been dismissed, Director Allen. The case has been dismissed by the judge. So there's nothing.
But Rep. Moore Green, Chair knows, we still do the discharge planning with those patients. We don't simply walk them to the front door and let them out the front door. But again, let me do some more follow up and provide some more formal answer to the committee on what happens with that dismissed case circumstance given the Mossman order. But I would say that we do not release anybody without discharge planning about where they're going to go.
Well, the result of all that is still not clear, although it did produce a letter from the chief judge at the Oregon Supreme Court to other presiding judges around the state. In it, Martha Walters asked the judges who might be thinking of dismissing a case for an aid and assist person who's at the state hospital to please make sure the defendant is returned to your county before doing so. Will that make a difference? I honestly don't know, but we will be watching closely to see how this all plays out. In my opinion, it's possible this will go as planned. Patients will be sent out early as part of the federal requirement, return to the county from which they came, and be able to live in a community-based facility that will help them continue to recover as they deal with the criminal charge against them. I hope that's the way that it works out. But being realistic, I think it's also possible that the whole thing's a nasty train wreck that plays out over the next year, with more people being released early every single month, and the pain for communities like Salem and elsewhere affecting not just the patient released, but also the people where they end up living. We shall see. All right, if you missed yesterday's show, we took a close look at Measure 110 in Oregon. You might recall that decriminalized possessions of small amounts of drugs 2 years ago. The plan was to use money from the state's marijuana tax to create treatment options. Many of you have written into us saying it's not working and it needs to be repealed. And an expert in the prevention and treatment of addiction told Oregon lawmakers recently the state's drug policy encourages extensive drug use and has no deterrence. In my own words, the law needs a carrot and a stick. If there's no incentive to change behavior just will not change. Right now, the only stick or teeth to the law is, in my opinion, ridiculous and wildly ineffective. Measure 110 allows police to write tickets for $100 if someone is found in possession of user amounts of drugs, and they can have that ticket wiped away if they call the Lines for Life helpline. OHSU's head of addiction medicine details just how ineffective that really is.
The original plan to ticket people who use drugs and have them call a treatment hotline has not worked. Of over 3,000 tickets issued as of the end of this summer, the hotline received 137 calls for treatment, most of whom weren't looking for treatment, actually. They were looking for screening for legal purposes. Only 1% of those issued a ticket for drug possession requested information about treatment resources. In my discussions with treatment leaders around the state, not one has had any patient enroll in treatment due to these tickets.
Not one. Those tickets obviously are not being taken seriously. They're a joke. Why should they be? There's no consequence. And after our story aired, many of you wrote in to us with your thoughts. Let's start with Michael, who did not mince words. I am a total liberal and humanist, but I am also a realist and a man of the world, and as such I know very well that some of the policies and programs instituted by my liberal brethren are largely, infuriatingly, based on wishful thinking, populism, ego, and a huge dollop of naivety. Nothing ever changes with only the carrot when addiction or behavioral deficiencies or criminality are not applied with the threat of some big heavy stick. It drives me crazy. These people with golden hearts and good intentions do terrible damage to the very thing they would like to heal and save. We even heard from a retired Oregon State police officer who said he spent a good deal of his career in drug enforcement. In his experience, he says punishing people with prison time helped to get them off hard drugs. He told us, if anyone would have asked a police officer at the beginning of all this nonsense, we would have told you exactly what your expert said. You need the stick and the carrot. He goes on to write, I've arrested countless drug dealers who, most were addicts themselves, just dealing drugs to support their habit. I've seen many later in life who thanked me for sending them to prison for a year or two so they could get away from everyone and get clean. Have laws and penalties in place, and then great treatment ready and available in and out of prison. I can't tell you how many individuals have spoken with who've told me that they would not have been sent to prison and been able to get away from every bad influence in their life. They would not have ever got clean. We do want to hear more of your thoughts on this. It's an issue we'll continue to follow for months to come. So what do you think? Do you agree with some of the viewers there? Or do you think Measure 10 is doing fine and it just needs time to truly work? Either one is fine. We'd like to hear what you think. Send an email to thestory@kgw.com or leave us a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Coming up next on The Story, Southwest Washington's 3rd Congressional District race is being watched closely around the country, seen as a real bellwether for how Republicans can fare after the GOP candidate is endorsed by former President Trump. The two candidates squared off in a debate last night. We'll introduce you to both and share some highlights from the debate coming up next. Over the weekend, the New York Times, yes, we do read that a lot, but also the Wall Street Journal, get over it. The New York Times ran an opinion piece on Southwest Washington's 3rd Congressional District race. We've been following it closely on our end. It's the race between Republican Joe Kent and Democrat Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez. They're competing for the seat that was held by Republican Jamie Herrera Butler for more than a decade. Times is calling this the midterm race that has it all. And a lot of political experts think it will be a real bellwether that indicates how Republicans are feeling in the post-Trump presidency years. To catch you up, Joe Kent is a far-right Republican endorsed by Trump. He's a former Green Beret with the Army, and his opinions fall pretty much in line with Donald Trump's. Marie Gluesenkamp-Perez is a Democrat. She lives in rural Skamania County and runs an auto shop in Portland. She's a gun owner, supports the police, and calls herself a capitalist. But she's also pro-choice and favors tighter gun restrictions. So, will Republicans in Southwest Washington go for the more extreme candidate, or will they cross the aisle and vote for the Democrat? The 3rd District has an interesting political makeup. It was once solidly Republican, but more recently, the area has shifted over to more lean Republican, according to the Cook Political Report. That means Republican votes could be in flux this fall. Nationwide, the race is getting a ton of attention. Here's how the New York Times put it. They say, it's one that will show us whether Republicans overreached in nominating candidates who speak almost exclusively to their base, or whether politicians like Kent really are the party's future. It will show us just how potent the backlash to the overturning of Roe v. Wade is, and it will show us what kind of House we're going to have come 2023, one that's capable of legislating or one that makes the Tea Party look tame. In other words, the race in Washington's 3rd is an almost perfect microcosm of the broader political forces at work in the fall midterm elections. It's a pretty big weight to put on two political newcomers. Neither of them have held any office before. But the two participated in a debate last night, and they generally stuck to their talking points. But neither of them have the kind of polish that you typically see from politicians who've been through this a few times. Take a look.
Now, let's be really, really clear about the choice between Joe Kent and I. He wants to privatize our Medicare and Medicaid. He wants to put Social Security on the stock market and gamble away our future. We're not going to let that happen.
Marie, the way that she defines healthcare is abortion, state-funded abortion up to the 9th month of pregnancy. And look, I know abortion is a controversial issue. I'm pro-life, but there is nothing more controversial than the current Democrat and Marie's plan to have state-funded, government-funded abortion up until the 9th month of pregnancy. That is a position that is too controversial for many pro-choice individuals.
Joe Kent wants to ban all immigration for 20 years to reestablish a white majority. He is a perfect example of someone who is entirely incapable of making things better. What he wants is a political football that he can toss back and forth and fundraise off of.
Seal off our southern border. The fentanyl that's coming across the southern border, it's coming from Mexican cartels. The precursors are coming from the Chinese Communist Party. So we have to get hard on China, kick them out of our capital markets, get them out of Wall Street, seize all the land they own here in America, and then we send the military down to the border. We can partner with the Mexican government to start going after the cartels. Look, after 9/11, me and my friends, we had to go chase every single radical Islamic terrorist to the far strong corners of the earth, even ones that had absolutely nothing to do with 9/11. However, it has never been done before that we go after people that are killing Americans on a daily basis, the Mexican drug cartels. So I'm against any kind of gun laws. The Second Amendment is very, very clear. The reason why we have a Second Amendment is because, look, hey, there's Republicans and Democrats here in this room tonight, right? If I win, Democrats, do you want me to have complete and total control and monopoly on violence? You don't trust me, right? She thinks I'm an extremist. You need to have that check on any kind of crazy authoritarian, which is what you guys think we are, any kind of authoritarian tendencies that we have. We have to have the ability to have our government have a healthy fear of us.
All right, as far as it being their first time running for such a big office, both candidates see it as a strength.
I know that statistically my chances of getting shot went way up when I decided to run for office. Yeah. But we have got to start supporting normal people in running for office, people with nuance, people who will listen to us. And that's what I'm here to offer.
This is the first time I've ever ran for absolutely anything. I fought for this country for over 20 years. I believe in public service. That's why I'm in this. I have experience in the private sector as well. So what we need to do is ensure that individual liberties as written in the Constitution are always protected. That's one of the most basic rules of government, is defending our God-given rights. Our rights don't come from government, they come from God.
So let us know what you think about all this. How do you feel about a newcomer representing Southwest Washington? If you're a Republican, are you ready to support a candidate endorsed by Trump or a Democrat? Send us an email. We'd love to hear from you, or leave us a voicemail. Still to come on the story. You've probably noticed in and around your home, spider season is here. But are any spiders in our area dangerous to us? Well, we're hearing from an expert who helps us separate fact from fiction. That's right after the break. It's that time of year. Spider season is here. You may have noticed in your apartment, your home, more and more webs, and indoors, outdoors as well, maybe even on the car or eaves of your house. A fair amount of people are frightened by the eight-legged creatures, but one Washington State expert says there's nothing to fear. And if anyone knows what they're talking about when it comes to arachnids, it's this guy. Rob Crawford has been on the job for more than 50 years at the University of Washington's Burke Museum. Every day he's surrounded by more than 200,000 spiders. I mean, they're dead. That'd be super interesting if they were all alive. Chris Cashman talked with him to help calm your nerves.
Would you look at that? Even on television, spider webs everywhere. It is spider season, ready or not. I know I found one inside my house this week that was the size of a Clydesdale horse. But we shouldn't be scared. And this is coming from a guy who is scared of spiders. But we're here to talk to the expert to dispel some of the myths and the rumors from the curator of arachnids. Are the spiders bigger and more abundant this year?
No, they are not. Of course, every year we get a few more imported species that weren't around the year before, but the biggest and most conspicuous species that people are noticing here at the end of summer have been around Seattle for decades. That's the giant house spider, which mature males are big enough to cover the palm of my hand, and frequently do. They live indoors. They do not come in from outside because this species doesn't even live outside. Totally harmless from here on over to the end. is 100% vials of spiders. You can't get this big without eating a lot, and what they eat is bugs. Do you want all those little bugs in your house? Spiders are the last thing to worry about. No spider in the Puget Sound area is dangerous to humans in any way. I've handled literally tens of thousands of live spiders with my bare hands. True spider bites are extremely rare events. The number of brown recluses within 1,000 miles of the state of Washington is 0. Spider with the most powerful venom is the daddy longlegs. People call daddy longlegs, they're harvestmen, they're not even spiders. They have no venom at all. I have this website, 75 or 80 things that everybody knows about spiders, that all of which ain't so.
Yeah, that's interesting. He looks like a real character. I love spiders, by the way. We celebrate them in our house. I scooped one out of the tub before I took a shower just the other day. Crawford estimates Washington State is home to nearly 1,000 species of spiders. The only threat to humans is the black widow, but those can only survive in eastern Washington. Yay! He says indoor spider sightings will peak next month, so if you do find one inside, it's best to leave them be. He says, by the way, an interesting note, many indoor spiders likely got into your home after hatching from spider eggs found in building materials. How about that? All right, keep sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com. We'll wrap things up right after this. Well, we're continuing to watch Florida from afar as the major Hurricane Ian continues its path of destruction across the Sunshine State. This weather disaster is far from over, and the communities are going to need a lot of help to get back on their feet. If you'd like to help victims of the storm, consider donating to the Red Cross. Just aim your smartphone camera at the QR code on your screen right now. You'll get a link to donate. The money will go towards efforts to help people who are waiting to see whatever Ian leaves behind. Well, that's the end of our show. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for watching. But remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I'll see you tomorrow.